It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley, back from a very eventful weekend, really a historic weekend.
Yeah.
Gary, how are you?
Well, like everybody else, numb. For me, I just finished a workout during the weekend lately. As I get older, I find it a little bit harder to sleep. So working out like a fiend so I can go to sleep early on the weekends and wake up like at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning to keep my sleep pattern sort of intact. And so I just was finished with that, came in and sat down. I don't even know it was on TV. And my best friend since we were 8 years old, Jeff, texted me and said, "I'm watching the rally. Something just happened." So I was there within a minute. You know, I just turned on, I don't even know which channel it was. Maybe it was Fox News now. I'm not sure. But, and, you know, they just said this, you know, just happened. And they were still taking him off the stage at that point.
Yeah.
Then they went back. And for me, being the old guy, you know, I remember the Kennedy assassination. I was at home sick. I remember that. I remember where I was with the Bobby Kennedy assassination and Martin Luther King. I remember all the attempts, you know, that happened. And you think about it, Reagan was, you know, we're talking, 43 years?
Yeah, I was actually in an American history class when that happened.
Yeah, since the last attempted one. So it's something that most of the public hasn't experienced. The majority of the public has never gone through this. And when you think about it, there were numerous assassination attempts, you know, in that 18 years, you know, from 63 to 81.
Yeah.
And so I'm not saying it was normalized at all during that point. What I'm saying is nobody really, the majority of the public hasn't experienced something like this. But first off, thank God the president looked down at that sheet, as he said, because another quarter inch, as a doctor told him, and he probably would be dead today.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, there's so much to talk about, and just thank God that he is okay. There's so much to talk about as you try to weed through, because the conspiracy theories are out there big time, as we all know.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to happen when everybody has access to social media. Well, that's just the reality of what you're going to get.
It is, and it's also going to happen when there is seemingly a failure of the United States Secret Service.
Yeah, oh yeah.
On a very fundamental level. It's not that they couldn't find where the shooter was after they heard the shots and couldn't locate him. If you look at the layout, especially the exterior layout, and you don't have rooftops covered, and you've got people on the ground that are not trained agents, the people that were at the rally noticing somebody on a roof, and you haven't taken note of it and done anything about it, I don't know the level of incompetence, but this is a massive, massive failure. Wall Street Journal writing about it Sunday evening. And I don't know how you remedy that situation. I really don't. After you fire a bunch of people,
right.
I don't know what you do beyond that.
When the guy first came on and said, I saw him. I was doubtful first of his testimony, or his not testimony.
The witness.
The witness wasn't testimony. That's in a court. Well, I guess testimony doesn't have to be in a court, but that's how it's usually referred. But when he was giving what he saw, was like, I don't know, because you're sitting there saying, we're waving to police, and they knew it, and the Secret Service could see us, and we're pointing to them, and they didn't do anything. It's like, really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, really.
And then the video came out.
Yeah, and it's true. And if you've ever dealt with the Secret Service, and I have 4 times.
Yeah, I've done it multiple times.
Yeah.
It is tight. It's supposed to be tight.
Well, the tightest one I ever saw, and I've talked about this before, is when right after the Republican convention, this was in '96, Jack Kemp and Bob Dole, and the first place that they came to was Buffalo, New York, and I was working as a talk show host there at that point, and I got a call that said, "You want to MC it?" And so it would have been on, I think the convention would have ended on the Thursday night after the Dole speech. I believe this was Saturday. So it was that quick of a turnaround. It was either Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
And when I got the call Friday morning, that the first, and it was natural because Jack Kemp, if people don't know that, the late Jack Kemp was a quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. And also, the vice presidential candidate under that ticket, and also the person who convinced Reagan to cut taxes. He was the guy that moved that, and so they picked Buffalo and the University of Buffalo Stadium that holds about maybe 26,000 people at that time. I think they took out some grandstands. And so they told me I had to be there super early. If the whole thing went off like at 11 o'clock, I think it was, you had to be there by 6 o'clock because they shut everything down at 7. Yeah, everything.
Right.
Nobody went in or out for like 2 hours. They scanned every single part of that stadium. And it was impressive and I was talking to a few Secret Service agents, at that point, but just observing every single rooftop, Eric. And I'm talking about from way over 130 yards away, where you can see the snipers were all over the place. And so the question is, how in the hell 130 yards away? And again, we don't have there is no official analysis of this yet. Everything is allegations being thrown back and forth. You hear everything from, well, the Secret Service doesn't do that perimeter. What are you talking about? The Secret Service doesn't do something. It's outside the perimeter and 130 yards away. That's pure. If that isn't happening, somebody gets fired.
Yes. All the way to the top.
Yeah, somebody gets fired if that's the case. Well, that's outside the perimeter. 130 yards, clear shot on a rooftop is not outside any damn perimeter.
Outdoor events.
Yeah, exactly.
It's and you'll see it. I have friends who are contractors who are former specialists in the military, and the one thing they'll say is get high. When they're in a combat zone, you want to get the advantage. You want to get higher than your target, higher than the enemy, and it would be exactly where a sniper would be, and it turned out to be the case, and wasn't that difficult of a perimeter to secure. And the fact that civilians saw it before they did is completely unacceptable. And we can't have a Secret Service that operates this way. We can't. I don't know what's going on. I can't tell you what's going on. We've talked about the mindset of people or individuals or whatever. Or did they just feel relaxed because, it's probably not going to happen. The chances are, look, we've got an eye on everybody here on the ground. We're more worried about here, someone up close and blah, blah, blah. And they just kind of were lazy about it. I don't know. But it was a massive failure. There is, to the core, this is a fundamental failure.
Is somebody quiet quitting in the Secret Service?
Yeah, exactly.
Because that's the thing that was the most shocking. The other thing is, and again, the allegations are thrown out, allegations are thrown back, and who knows what the actual truth is on the ground at that moment. But from what we know, the one police officer, as we know, and this apparently is verified, the police officer that went up and engaged him, and he pulled the rifle, so he went back down the ladder that went to the roof. Mm-hmm. Doesn't anybody have a radio?
Right.
And if there's a sniper sitting there, because I heard, the back and forth on social media that said, why didn't they shoot him? It's like, well, Secret Service is told not to shoot anybody until they shoot first because it could be a cell phone. We're not talking about in the crowd. We're talking about on a building where the shooter has been identified, and you have a police officer. I don't know the timeline in it, from the timeline of the police officer seeing him. Now, they did say that after the police saw him, that's when he turned around and shot very quickly, which meant, which they're thinking maybe that's what distracted the shooter from being able to kill former President Trump. But again, you look at it and you say, you're talking about somebody on a rooftop, not somebody with a cell phone in the thousands of in the thousands of people in the crowd.
Somebody who should have been where they were.
It's talking about somebody who's completely and totally isolated from anybody else, alone, and you have the technology to know, because this point was brought up, somebody on the rooftop, all right? 10 seconds later, you're zoomed in. Number one, the snipers are zoomed in on him, correct? The snipers and whatever drones they have in the air.
Right.
You would assume they have drones in the air.
I sure as hell hope they have drones in the air at an outdoor event for a president or former president. This is, again, these are the basics of what we as civilians know. We talk about lawfare and how, look, we've learned the basics of how the law works if you've been around for any amount of time on this planet in this country. Well, we know how the Secret Service protection works. And we don't know everything, but the very basics, that's the problem. The very fundamentals were failed here, completely failed. And I can't imagine. I don't know what's going on inside the Secret Service and what happened in the moments after that, but I sure as hell hope that a number of people have to answer for this with their jobs.
Well, but the reports out there, and again, who knows? Again, the allegations that these weren't full-time Secret Service agents. Some were Department of Homeland Security who were there just to help because of a shortage of people. Here's, one of the things that you and I talked about. One of the problems that this administration has is it seems like, and Peggy Noonan wrote about it in the Wall Street Journal, probably, 6 months into the Biden presidency, she said everything seems to be broken.
Yeah.
Nobody seems to be running anything correctly. Everything runs wrong. And then it gets to this point of, wow, there are some agencies that you just view in the federal government as, and by the way, the Secret Service over the last 15 years has had a ton of different problems. National Review laid out all the things that have happened over the years. Remember the prostitution ring. How the hell does that happen in the Secret Service? Remember the prostitution ring?
Yeah.
And then when the report came out, so much of it was redacted for national security reasons that Congress could never get to the bottom of, okay, just what happened, what was true and what was not true. But we know the prostitution ring was true. How the hell does that happen in an organization like the Secret Service?
Right.
Hey, we're working overnights. We haven't had a prostitution ring.
No.
But you understand my point is you're talking about people that you expect to be the utmost professionals, bar none. There are a couple of agencies that the American public over the last 50 years have come to trust. One of them was, and they've had their problems, but was the Secret Service. You view and say these people are willing to give their lives, and many are. The people that surrounded the president were, and should be congratulated for volunteering to do that type of job. But the other one, for example, we've talked about is the NTSB. The NTSB is viewed as a credible organization where politics doesn't get involved in it. But when you see and politics and excellence, excellence in following the science is what they're known for. And so when you see something like this, it does give the public the impression everything is broken, even up to protecting ex-presidents, the leading candidate in a presidential race.
Yeah.
Which people just view as completely and totally unacceptable.
Right.
Man, we got so much to talk about today.
It's unbelievable. I'm with you. So there I am. I had just gotten back to my hotel and I was at an event in Iowa at the Iowa 80 truck stop. So I drove back, and I had about an hour-long conversation with my father on my way back to the hotel, sat in the car when I got to the hotel, finishing that conversation. And he was talking about, at some point the liberals have to really, kind of what you were saying about they have to change, but he was talking about specifically their rhetoric. He said the rhetoric is just getting so vile. It's just getting so, their language is just getting to a point where it's so radical. And we had this conversation, and at 91, my dad was thinking clearly, was issuing, his thoughts and everything very clearly and passionately. And it was a great conversation. I felt really great about it. Always great talking to my dad. I walk up to my hotel room, and right as I'm about to hit the shower, my phone just explodes. And I'm watching all the video, fresh video coming in, and I'm thinking to myself, is this happening? One thing that hit me hard was the look on former President Trump's face when he came back above the podium. When they were surrounding him and the look on his face, and it really took me back to the Reagan thing. And when he because this was the sign to tell everybody he was okay, but also to rally people that were there. That fist in the air was everything I know to people like me that were watching to tell me, at least for now, he's okay. He's standing up. And it was just for the moment, a breath of fresh air.
Almost indescribable moment. It really.
I don't know,
because I was doing the same thing.
Yep.
You're watching.
Yep.
Because the thing I was thinking too is like Reagan. You know, he didn't think he was hurt bad.
Right.
And I'm thinking to myself, is that the only shot that hit? Does he not know that he's been hit somewhere else?
Right.
That was my thing, and they're trying to get him off.
Exactly.
I'm like, get him
question.
off, get him off. Get him to the into the ambulance and get him to the armored vehicle they have. Get him to the hospital.
I was so worried.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. On a hot summer day, the last thing you want to feel is a blast of warm air when you turn on your air conditioning. A malfunctioning AC system will leave you uncomfortably shifting in your seat. Not to mention, it can affect the safety and performance of your entire vehicle and your productivity. Keep your AC system running smooth and your deliveries on schedule this summer with the following maintenance tip. Make sure the condenser on the front of your cab is clean and double check that your compressor belt is tight and in good condition.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. You know something? We'll get into talking about the rhetoric, the overheated rhetoric that must stop. Is the narrative that we hear? And I think about going back. It's almost 30 years now when I believe the overheated rhetoric started from the left, which was when after the '94 Congress, after they were elected, and they wanted to reduce the rate of growth of Medicare and the school lunch program. And that's where I really remember the media coming together and saying Republicans wish to starve young kids and kill old people.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was actually the beginning of the modern Democratic rhetoric, when they started not being able to debate the issues. So they decided overheated rhetoric was a way to go, instead of looking at a challenge and a problem that we face today now with the debt.
Right.
And saying, okay, let's discuss what's the right way to do it.
Links to everything Red Eye on the website redeyeradioshow.com.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. I'm just happened to be reading this. Mark Weaver of Newsweek, 10 Ways to Unite as a Nation After the Attempted Assassination of Trump. Let me get to number one. No American elected official is anything like Hitler, Stalin, or Mao. Claiming otherwise denigrates the tens of millions killed by those tyrants, and making these ridiculous comparisons exposes a lack of understanding of the constitutional guardrails that protect America from devolving into totalitarianism. You know, I said that when we got back from vacation a week ago. I said the one thing that, a couple of things that when I was looking at that entire week, I said the first thing was, okay, now we're seeing the separation of powers. Now we're seeing the three branches of government.
Yeah.
With the Supreme Court rulings,
right.
which tend to moderate things that have happened, even though it takes a while to do so. And as we know, damage from executive orders can happen. But that was the number one. Then he goes through a bunch of other stuff too, which is that we'll get to later on in the show. But the whole political rhetoric thing that started, and it's, by the way, and let me play this because it was you just shake your head. You're like, my God. This was just after the attack on CNN, one of their reporters. All right. You ready?
Yeah.
Here we go.
I do want to say there was one thing that when I watched the tape, I found odd because of all of the heated rhetoric. And that is that after he was hit, former President Trump got up and said, fight, fight, fight. I think what we're hearing from people is that's not the message that we want to be sending right now. We want to tamp it down.
What people?
What people? Because I get it from your side. You guys are weak. You don't like to fight. I get it. I get that you don't want to stand up for what you believe in anymore. So all you want to do is conjure lies and fear, as you alluded to in the last segment, of going back to starting with the whole idea of starving the old and children, and that's here's the thing. We said it years ago when we talked about the Hitler comments. What you're doing is you're conjuring up fear, and individuals. This is your goal, to conjure the fear in individuals' minds that whoever you're talking about when comparing them to Hitler is going to commit the same atrocities as Hitler.
Well, when you see that anyone who is 22 years of age or younger, all they've ever heard about Republican presidents they are Hitler.
Right.
Or presidential candidates.
Right.
And that applies to Bush, where it was even to the point where Bill Maher said, well, yeah, we said, remember he was joking about it?
Yep.
Yeah, we said that Bush and Romney were Hitler, but they really weren't. But Trump really is.
Trump really is Hitler.
Right.
And now the left is full on anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas. So tell us again who Hitler is. Tell us which side closer represents Hitler.
This whole thing about, look, rhetoric can be correct. Sometimes you may say something that seems like overheated rhetoric, but if you back it up with the facts, that's another thing. We know that Trump's reputation as a treasonous person came from the Russia hoax, the Russia collusion hoax that never happened.
Right.
He was called a traitor to the country. All of it was conjured up by Hillary Clinton, as we all know, the biggest, dirty trick ever in American presidential politics. And so you look at it, anybody who is 22, 23 years of age or younger, all they've ever heard is that the Republican Party is Nazis. And I'm the last one to sit there and say, because one person said one thing one time that drives somebody to kill someone. I don't know the motivations of this particular shooter, but there's a difference between someone saying something once and creating a culture over a period, as we have seen, of 30 years. And I say 30 years because it was 94, 95, when Republicans were promoting the fact that, okay, look, the school lunch program, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for everybody, and subsidizing every lunch, even for the richest schools, we shouldn't be doing. We need to control those costs there. And with Medicare, we need to control the cost, too, which in Medicare helped the creation, as we know, is Medicare Advantage, getting the private sector involved in it. Social Security, when Bush brought it up, that's where W brought it up, saying we need to do something about it. And he was eviscerated by the Democrats as wanting to kill old people. Remember the Paul Ryan ad of Paul Ryan pushing somebody, an old person in a wheelchair over a cliff. And those are all things of we need to, we would like to do, we wish we could do everything for everybody, but we can't. And the debt is unsustainable. We knew it. Mm-hmm. And where we are right now, we knew we were going to be back then.
Yep.
And so it was like, we need to get costs under control, and let's find the best way to do it. And the Republicans were seriously talking about we need this type of reform. And Democrats were saying, you just want to kill old people. You just want to start every time. And now we see where we are today. We see the damage. We see the inflation over the last 3 years. And it was the Republicans that were the ones that were really trying to give notice of it. Not so much now, because now they realize, well, no, the public, we believe, both sides believe the public just wants to keep spending the money. They know it's wrong to do so. But the fact is, we're not going to be bothered about it. We believe that's a great immorality, that a significant number of people that crosses party lines now, because the Republicans are not as vehement. There are some, and as we saw last year, that still understand that we need to cut, but it's not what it was even 10 years ago. Bringing that up, there are some very, very hard issues that you have to bring up, and you've got to be blunt. For example, when we said with Biden during COVID, stop the hypocrisy. Stop pretending you care about the American public when you completely close down the northern border, but keep the southern border wide open.
Yeah.
Having no idea who's coming in with COVID.
Right.
Why would you do that? Harsh rhetoric to back up the fact of what's going on there is sometimes necessary. When you have the United States under the Biden administration taking away the sanctions that were put on by the last president that funds the terrorism of Iran, and they don't care about it, and they keep it going on, and they keep making excuses, is infuriating, especially when we know that money went to terrorist groups that helped kill U.S. soldiers and U.S. allies, and has been responsible for the attacks on so many American bases and American places of interest. I mean, it's upsetting, and so you will get over-the-top rhetoric, but as we have always done on this show, every time we use that blunt rhetoric and those allegations, it's based on specific instances that we can relate to.
These are the things that we went back to the Steve Scalise shooting, and it was learned that the shooter was a big Bernie supporter. And we were very clear. We don't blame Bernie Sanders directly. We do blame a mindset to a certain extent, depending on what we learn about the individual who's actually responsible for the atrocity. And I'm careful to phrase it that way for a reason. Because I'm not going to engage in the rhetoric. I'm not going to do the over-the-top stuff like the left does. That's what they do. That's not what this country was founded on. The truth is the only thing that matters. And right now, people, by the way, are justified in their questioning of how this happened and what happened and who all is involved and everything else. Because, number one, it's early. But also, number two, we live in a time where criminals roam free, and parents who want to go and issue a concern at a school board meeting are having their license plate taken down by FBI agents. Those are facts. Those are facts. So I can see why everybody right now has a million questions about this. We look at the arrogance of someone like Mayorkas. And if DHS agents were helping out and assisting here, keep in mind who their boss is and what the tone is and how the tone is set by their boss. It could be anything from incompetence to being lazy, lack of experience, or just not caring. I don't know. But it was a massive failure on a fundamental level, and no one can question that now that we know a lot more about what happened on Saturday. This entire equation is built over a period of time. I don't know the direct effect that it had on the shooter. I can't tell you that. But when you conjure fear in people's minds over the Georgia election law, over Bush being Hitler, over Trump, oh no, Bush wasn't Hitler, Trump actually is Hitler, and the lies that have been told about Trump repeatedly all the way back to Russian collusion and that massive hoax on the American people that was about as sophisticated as it gets, hell yeah, you're going to get people asking questions and coming up with their own theories.
Now, we have, without question, when Republicans lie, we call them out on it. We always have. In fact, it's very frustrating for us because as conservatives, we don't feel we have any need to lie.
No.
Ever.
Nope.
And we have talked about it. If you've been a long-time listener to the show, one of the biggest problem I see in this country is not people lying or politicians lying, but the acceptance of their supporters if the lie fits their narrative. Mm. And so, but when you look at the attacks, I mean, the most vicious attacks out there, it's the Nazi, it's the Mussolini, it's the concentration camps, it's where they're going to, Trump's going to kill and round up, all the LGBTQ, all that stuff that has no basis in reality at all, that isn't backed by any semblance of truth. And we know this because we have asked the question for 5 years now. Where is Trump a radical? When we use words like that, when we say Biden is a radical, we point out why, what he has supported. Mm-hmm. And we know that it got to a point even before the assassination attempt, because it was late last week where you had some Democrats coming out and the stories being written that, okay, Trump really isn't a threat to democracy. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. We all know that. We're just using that. That came out before the assassination.
Yeah.
We're just throwing that out, because we don't have anything else. Because they can't win on the issues. And we ask the question, why do politicians promote things like defund the police? Why do they wish to have an open border? Why are they destroying our energy infrastructure as the Biden administration did when Biden said we're going to be all solar and wind before he was in office for a few months and said, okay, I guess nuclear too, but knowing they weren't going to build any nuclear.
Right.
These are all questions that have to be answered, but the fact is, any allegation we made is based on the truth. 866-90-RED-I.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-I on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Man, we got so much to talk about here. I see that Forbes removed the column that asked if Trump surviving shooting will appeal to black voters. Oh, my God.
Wow.
A controversial Forbes column with the headline that questioned if former President Donald Trump surviving Saturday's assassination attempt would draw more black voters was yanked from its website amid social media backlash. The piece, "Will surviving gunfire be Donald Trump's next appeal to black voters?" Wow.
Yeah.
By scholar and self-described DEI expert Sean Harper was posted Sunday morning and quickly called out by critics on X and then deleted. Wow.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, I do like this, the GoFundMe for the victims. Now at over 3 million.
Yeah.
And growing. This update from late last night, sources tell NBC News that the roof where the shooter was located was well known and a high priority vulnerability identified in a security walkthrough the day before. They confirmed that the counter sniper did not need approval to shoot and did not follow prior protocol, according to NBC News. And we had said that because we had seen the response saying, well, no, the snipers don't shoot back until somebody shoots first because it could be a cell phone in the crowd. And I said, what are you talking? This is no cell phone in a crowd.
Right. Well, and you know, between that and the media headlines immediately following that were just unbelievably incompetent, they sounded worse and looked worse than Biden did on the debate stage 2.5 weeks ago. And, you know, Trump falls on stage. That's like saying JFK died in a car accident. You're a complete moron, and you should absolutely quit your job. If your name was under that headline as the writer, you should look for other work. You don't have to come out and say it was an assassination. You can say what sounded like gunshots, loud pops. One was crackling noise. Someone used the words crackling noise or cracking noises. But the collective, if you look at the mentality behind all of that ridiculous, quite frankly, irresponsible behavior. Don't call yourself a journalist. You're not reporting. Don't cover breaking news ever again. If you want to be opinionated, fine. But the collective spirit of that is something that's been happening since the beginning, and that's to delegitimize Donald Trump as a president, now former president, and now presumptive nominee, and quite possibly future president. They've been trying to do, they have been very clear. They have been very vocal that that is their goal at every step. And it just became far beyond ridiculous. It was not laughable. It was sad.
Well, like I said, it was, and I didn't give the correspondent's name. I have it on Saturday. It was CNN special correspondent, Jamie Gangle, who stated that she thought it was odd because of all the heated rhetoric that Trump, after being shot, would say fight, 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 because he goes, because some people say, you heard that one?
Mm-hmm.
Some people say that wasn't appropriate. Here a guy's been shot, realize, he doesn't know how bad the injuries are.
Right.
All he knows is that he has been the victim of a assassination attempt as a former president and leading candidate in the 2024 election, that he had no idea what's going on. All he knows is he's been the victim of an assassination attempt, and that was defiance. You're not going to win.
No,
and that showed
exactly.
you, and you saw that Martha Raddatz, to start out on ABC, she was doing the same thing. She said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That it was all this. My God, he was just shot.
Right.
But this is how, if you want the evidence that they were angry that this attempted assassination and the murder of one of Trump's supporters there was political, right there, you got it right there.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't like the politics of it.
Right. Right. And, it that entire thing, watching that, a lot of people were praising Elon Musk, saying, the fact that he changed X, after he bought Twitter and brought more free speech to that forum. I think that is very important because I don't know how many accounts would have been banned under the old Twitter regime, also known as the FBI. And I don't know how far that would have gone because of what we saw, whether it's CNN or USA Today was another one that just had a ridiculous headline. But here at the end of it is exactly what you and I have been talking about. The media don't control the message
Anymore,
The American people find a way to find the truth as to what's going on. And the more you try and hide the truth, the more you try and change this into something it's not, the more, forget about bias. Bias? Oh, my gosh. We go back to the late 80s and talk about bias. This is activism. The more that your activism shows and the more that you become very clearly part of the problem in the communications breakdown. One of the things that I have done is that I bought a subscription to the Free Press. And I did it because of the work of Barry Weiss and all of the others that are now at the Free Press. Selena Zito was with the Free Press, was there 4 feet away from the president on Saturday. But it's something that the reason I paid for that subscription, and I believe it's worthy, is because of something that you and I have repeated. I've said quite often, in a free society, true journalism is necessary. Finding the truth and having people that will not stop until they find the truth is necessary. It's absolutely a critical part of a free society. And it's not always going to be what you want to read. It's not going to be, if you read the truth and it's not what you thought it was going to be, there are going to be days like that. But as long as you know it's the truth and you can trust it, that's what matters. You look at that situation, Selena Zito was on the phone immediately calling colleagues and reporting there, literally on the ground. I mean, laying on the ground. It's a compelling read, and I don't think it even goes as far to describe what was going on with her. She reports the whole thing, but it was so sobering to think about being in the moment, because when we watch the videos, you probably did this, Gary. I'm watching the people in the stands behind him, and they are in such disbelief. The president, a former president, when he touches his ear and he looks down at his hand, he immediately kneels down to get out of harm's way. And the people around him, and I'm thinking, there's one guy that kind of stands up and he's trying to look around as to what's going on. And I'm thinking to myself, you probably want to, I'm kind of yelling at the screen, even though it's not live. And obviously, even if it were, he couldn't hear me. But it was just one of those moments. I'm like, you got to get down. You got to get down. You got to get down. And thinking of what I would do in that situation. And then it got back to something you and I have said about everything thrown, the rhetoric and all of it, and all of the charges now, and going all the way back to the Russian hoax thrown at former President Trump, and he hasn't flinched. The man got shot on Saturday and didn't flinch. That, to me, is the sign of somebody with conviction. That, to me, is the sign of somebody with the passion to do what they believe is best for this country, and there's no way around that. He didn't have to make anything up. He doesn't have to make anything up in terms of, the all the things, all the charges thrown at him. All of that stuff is made up. That's the sign of strength and conviction in that moment. Because I think to myself, if I were anywhere near that, I have no idea how I would react. And none of us who have ever been in that situation, who have never been in that situation, do. There was one gentleman that the media, local media, actually was able to talk to, and he was former military. And you could tell he was affected, and he had blood on his shirt from helping somebody. And you could tell he was affected, but his military training had gone into play in that moment. And when I saw that very short interview with him, as he's kind of walking away from that, he hugs one of the security officers.
That was I can't think of his last. That was Rico.
Rico, I can't think of his last name either.
It
was one of the speakers, one of the guest speakers there that day. He said he was one of the guests.
Wasn't he the one that cradled the head of the one victim who?
Yes,
was shot?
Yes, I believe that's the story, and he still has blood on his shirt, and he's walking away, and in the wake of such horror, still not knowing, it's just minutes later, his military training had kicked in, and to me, on the outside, he seemed to be holding it together very well. I obviously don't know what was going on the inside with him, but God bless the families that had to deal with this, the family of the victim who passed. And God bless anybody who was able to do that, because I just thought to myself that military training was critical for him. And we forget about that. We forget about what it takes. We forget about what they go through when they're in a war zone. We forget about how they've been trained and what their mind is after they come home, what they're suffering with, and all of this, and still they're able to show most often this incredible strength. And I was so grateful in that moment, and just still in shock this morning. It's the oddest feeling that I've had in a long time is the response to what happened. There is still a sense of disbelief.
There's a numbness that I still have. Yeah, I've had the numbness the whole time. I was talking to some friends, and of course everybody's speculating.
Yeah.
And they said, "You're not speculating." I go, the only thing I would speculate on is how, at that point, how an open area like that, where the sniper was, wasn't identified. Now we know it was identified, according to NBC News, as a high priority vulnerability,
which makes the failure even much worse.
It's like the failure there, as to anything else. I don't know. I don't have the information.
Well,
And
there's-
so I'm
exactly.
not. I don't jump to.
I can only judge on what I witnessed.
Right. But
The questions that I have, speculation to a point of conclusion doesn't work in a situation like this for me.
And I was like I said, I'm still a little bit numb by it, and I don't know. Maybe it's because of like I said, Kennedy assassination. I saw Oswald, and I was how old would I have been? I was first, second grade, but we were homesick.
Yeah.
But I saw I saw Oswald being killed. That was on live TV, and was there for in '68. Bobby Kennedy, Martin Luther King. You're all around for that, and you're like, what? Yeah. What's going on? You feel like the country is lost.
Yeah.
I have still never, even in Vietnam, I've never seen the division of the country today, which I believe is based on lies.
Right.
The division, and I'm talking about from the left. Jonathan Turley wrote about it. He goes, this includes claims that Trump was set to kill democracy, unleash death squads, and make homosexuals and reporters disappear. President Biden has stoked this rage rhetoric in 2022. He held his controversial speech before Independence Hall, where he denounced Trump's supporters as enemies of the people. Biden recently referenced the speech and has embraced the claims that this could be our last Democratic election.
Right. Yeah.
Some of us have been objecting for years that the rage rhetoric is a dangerous political pitch for the nation. While most people reject the hyperbole, others take it as true. They believe that homosexuals are going to be disappearing, as claimed on ABC's The View, or that Trump death squads are now green-lighted by a conservative Supreme Court, as claimed by MSNBC's Rachel Maddow. That's the insanity. Then the 2025 thing.
Yeah.
When you see everything that came out there, and it's just like, it's not even, none of it's true.
Right.
So the political philosophy is throw out, Project 2025. By the way, it was all set today to talk about Project 420. Everybody's high.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Today, but that's done now because that's going nowhere. You know why that's going nowhere? The Project 2025 is because conservatives made so much fun of it. I like it. Page 1, Project 2025. Learn to read.
Yeah.
That was the best one I saw.
Yeah, right.
But there were so many people just exaggerating and making stuff up as they're going along just to mock it to begin with. But that's all based on throwing out a label and then lying about it.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Owner-operators can save a hefty amount of money by participating in discount fuel networks. If you're leased and your fleet has a fuel optimizer program, use it. Such a program helps plan a trip based on fuel prices and locations in the carrier's fuel network. The larger the carrier, typically the larger the discounts that are possible. Fees for using such networks have become rare thanks to competition for drivers. Owner-operators are well advised, however, to pass up network fuel stops that are too costly, are too far off route, sell inferior fuel, or are dangerously or poorly maintained. For independent owner-operators, a bevy of fuel discount networks exists, from a variety of traditional fuel cards to the National Association of Small Trucking Companies network and the younger mud flap applications discounts at independent truck stops around the nation. Research the options and discounts available to find the right one for you. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just reading just a couple more sentences from Jonathan Turley. Rage is addictive and contagious. It's also liberating. It allows people a sense of license to take actions that would ordinarily be viewed as repulsive. As soon as Trump was elected, unhinged rage became the norm, as with Kathy Griffin featuring herself holding a bloody severed head of Trump. Just recently, another celebrity, actress Leah Delaria, begged Biden to blow Trump up after a recent presidential immunity decision.
Yeah.
Delaria explained that this is a blanking war. This is a war now, and we're fighting for our blanking country, and these blankety blanks are going to take it away. They're going to take it away. For months, people have heard politicians and the press call Trump Hitler and the GOP a Nazi movement. Some have compared stopping Trump to stopping Hitler. Dan Goldman declared Trump not only unfit, he's destructive of our democracy and has to be eliminated. He later apologized.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So here it is, just to finish the part of this column from Jonathan Turley. For months, people have heard politicians call and the press call Trump Hitler and the GOP a Nazi movement, some comparing stopping Trump to stopping Hitler in 1933. Representative Dan Goldman declared Trump is not only unfit, he's destructive to our democracy and has to be eliminated. He later apologized. Others said Trump will destroy the world. I do not believe, this is from Jonathan Turley, that the politicians are punting engaging in what my book calls rage rhetoric actually want violence, but they have knowingly created conditions for extremist views and, yes, extremist actions. The media has been quick to denounce reckless rhetoric from the right while largely ignoring the same language on the left. That includes threats against conservative Supreme Court justices before the assassination plot of Brett Kavanaugh. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer went to the steps of the Supreme Court and called out Kavanaugh by name. I want to tell you, Gorsuch, I want to tell you, Kavanaugh, you have released a whirlwind and you will pay for the price. You won't know what hit you if you go forward with those awful decisions. Again, I do not believe that Schumer wanted the assassination plot for Kavanaugh and wanted him to be killed. However, these politicians also know that some citizens will hear this rhetoric as a justification for violent conduct. Thus, when the president is claiming that the election may end democracy in the nation, it can be heard as much as a license, as a warning, particularly when he adds, we're done talking about the debate. It's time to put Trump in a bullseye. We still do not know the shooter We still do not know about the shooter in this assassination attempt. However, we know all too well how unhinged people can find justification in violent rhetoric in our politics. This moment did not occur in a vacuum. It occurred in a time when our leaders long abandoned reason for rage. But we've been here before. In the 1800 election, 1800, Federalists and Jeffersonians engaged in similar rage rhetoric. Federalists told the citizens that if Jefferson were elected, quote, murder, robbery, rape, adultery, and incest will be openly taught and practiced. The air will be rent with the cries of the distressed. The soil will be soaked with blood and the nation black with crimes. Jeffersonians warned that if Adams were reelected, chains, dungeons, transportation, and perhaps more awaited citizens, and they would be instantaneously put to death. The transportation would be to death camps. Both sides stoked the anger and fears of the public, and violence was seen across the nation. In our current age of rage, politicians have sought to use the same anger and fear to rally support at any cost. This is the cost. Well, let me say this here. When Turley says that that those politicians that use violent rhetoric don't want it, I don't believe that's necessarily so. Some may not, but I believe some do. Otherwise, you know how I know some do? Because you and I have been doing this now In fact, we have been together 19 years right now.
Today.
Today's
our 19-year on-air anniversary.
Yep. That you and I have worked together.
Yep.
But I've done radio now for 42 years. Talk radio now 35. And how many, you and I tried to figure it out one day. Well, it's 40,000 plus hours, on the on the air.
Right.
5 hours a day. Think about this. 5 hours a day. Nobody writes for us. There are no scripts.
Nope.
So we say what we feel every day.
Yep.
And a lot of it, because you're on 5 hours a day, not a lot of it, all of it is our honest opinions on the issues. We may have thought about it in our head during the day, but nothing's written down. Much of what we do is ad lib because we know how we think, so we can ad lib. We have no problems ad libbing because we know it's in our brain. Never once have I wished violence on anyone. Never once have I used the term, you should be exterminated, and this person needs to be ended. Why? Because I don't ever want to be seen as encouraging violence, because I don't want violence. I believe, as a conservative, I don't just believe, I know, which I guess would be believe.
Yeah, well.
I know that what I think makes sense and works, because that's how I got to my opinions. My opinions were based on observing what works and what doesn't work and what promotes freedom and liberty of the individual.
Right.
And what's the best form of government to have. I don't need to wish the death of anyone and then to back off, go, well, I apologize for it, and go, I can't imagine using violent rhetoric. I can't imagine, doing what Goldman did, what he said about, Trump being exterminated, and then just going on with your day. Oh, it meant nothing. It meant nothing. It went nothing. Some of these people do want the violence. And I say this because I believe that where liberalism has gone today, which is more like anarchism, when you think about where liberalism has gone, chaos on the border, chaos in the cities because of what's going on at the border, the Democrats not calling out the riots in 2020, just ignoring them. Oh, by the way, did you see the Babylon Bee? Democrats say, I think it was a Babylon Bee, maybe it was just on social media. Democrats say it was a mostly peaceful assassination attempt.
Yeah.
But that goes back to 2020 when they were talking about mostly peaceful, and things were, the media reported things are burning. They wouldn't, Biden would not. Remember, he never addressed it in the DNC in 2020. Never addressed what was going on in the cities. Why don't you do that? Because you believe that that's part of your base that you need.
Yeah, right.
We talk about the truth. You look at everything, the culture of lies, of outrageous lies that have been created by the Democrats over a period of 30 years. And I say 30 years because it started in 94, 95. In my opinion, the modern movement of rage, when Republicans wanted to reduce the rate of growth of both Medicare and the school lunch programs.
Yeah.
That's spend more but reduce the rate of growth, which in Medicare helped really promote, as we have seen, Medicare Advantage and things like that. Okay, we need to streamline it. It's what we need to do. And Democrats immediately came out, didn't want to discuss it, simply said Republicans want to starve kids and kill old people. And it started at that point where we know then Bush was Hitler, Romney was Hitler, Trump, well, those other two, we said they were Hitler, but they really weren't, but this guy's really Hitler. When you have a culture of really 3 decades saying that the other party wishes just to kill people, to see people die horrible deaths, and you label them as to people that have killed and hundreds of murdered in massive genocides, hundreds of millions of people, Stalin, Mussolini, Hitler, all combined, and you say it consistently, you create that culture. You create not just an individual saying it, but your narrative is the other party is Nazis.
Yep.
When you do things like Biden did, when we called him out on it, and we'll stick by what we have said. I don't need to apologize for anything I've ever said, even though it's been extremely blunt. When Biden, with the Georgia election law, said it's Jim Crow on steroids, he did that in order to create rage between people of different skin colors based on a lie. There was nothing in that law that had anything to do with Jim Crow. So why would you lie like that? Why would you make up a lie like that? Why wouldn't you debate it? ID to vote is racist. And then when it hit back, it was Warnock that said, I don't know anybody who's ever said that, when it was the narrative, and still is the narrative now again, because of the whole thing of wanting to prove your citizenship. Last week, it came out again. It's racist, it's racist, it's racist, it's racist. No, you want to keep elections credible.
Yeah.
That's what that law is about, making sure that the public has confidence in it. But all these things, you look Charlottesville, the president's still telling that lie.
Well, that's the one I was going to jump to next. The media carries that lie. Charlottesville, still today. The president tells that lie over and over again. Think about that. Again, the idea is to conjure fear based on a lie, and fear drives to anger. So when we talk about rhetoric, it's not just rhetoric. We need to tone down the rhetoric. It's not the rhetoric that's the problem. It's not the temperature of the room that's the problem.
It's the lies.
It's the lies that create unfounded fears in individuals, which leads to unfounded anger in individuals. And that is the reality.
And you saw that, again, another example, the Project 2025.
Yep.
It's like, what the hell are you people talking about?
Right.
It's not even in there. Have you even read it? Which then again was sort of neutralized by the right on social media.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, some of it was some of the stuff was hilarious. At Project 2025 will bring back cigarettes on planes. You can smoke. I mean, just,
Oh, the list of things. Oh, what was it? I saw one. In fact, I saw one on a plane as I was going out to Iowa on Friday, and I can't remember what it was, but it was such a long. It was this big, long list of things that were obviously not part of Project 2025, but in the comedy, spelling out the ridiculous nature of the media, to not tell the truth about it, in fact, to be very vague about Project 2025 in order to conjure fear and then make things up. And this is what they want to do. They want people to have some kind of, oh my gosh, what's this Project 2025? Here's what I wonder on something like that, just a side question. How many people who aren't wonks like we all are, but hear that Project 2025 and go, I'm sorry, I don't even know what you're talking about. And on top of that, every time you guys start doing the fear-mongering, you just end up looking stupid. Even people on the left, I'm talking about rank and file, looking at the media. We've got to do something about this Project 2025. That's not what you need to worry about. You need to worry about Project 2026. And I'm not going to say anything more. I mean, it's that simple. You float out a few words, you float out a couple of things. People don't even know. You don't understand how bad this is. And then they stop. Anybody who does that, here's the clue. If they do that without just thoroughly walking through it and saying, here's exactly what it says and why it's wrong, here's why this is a threat, here's why this is something that we shouldn't allow to happen. If they don't do that, if they're talking in generalities, if they're being vague about it and telling you need to be fearful, dismiss everything they've ever said and don't listen to that person ever again.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So what happens now politically? Where do we go? We'll get to that coming up following the top of the hour. But, yeah, I think it's important to recognize that that it's not the rhetoric, it's the lies backing the rhetoric.
Yes, and that's it. Rhetoric is to be expected. Rhetoric isn't always fiery or whatever you want to call it. It isn't always violent in nature. It's the lies that support the rhetoric, that build to the rhetoric. And, the whole, we've got to tone it down, we've got to tone it. There's the truth and there's the lies. It's that simple. And the problem the Democrats have, Axios doing the story that basically, the calling for by Democrats to not have Biden run is now, since the attempted assassination of Trump, has now, all but gone away. And I thought to myself, well, no, that's not necessarily true. And here's why it matters, Gary, is that Monday tip of the hat to Axios. And because Monday night, we still have, as far as we know, the NBC News interview, prime time. Then you have the entire convention next month for the Democrats. So, no, nothing is going to change about Biden. The party may tone it down for a moment, but their concern is still there.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I love your story about being at the airport. That it reminded you of the movie The Langoliers.
So, over the weekend, I was at the Walcott Truckers Jamboree. It took place Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I was out there Saturday, and thank you to everyone who came up to say hello. That was great. It was at the Iowa 80 truck stop that is in Walcott, Iowa, just down the road from Davenport. Staying in Davenport, flying into the Moline Airport, which I've done for 25 years now straight for that event. But flying in and flying out, that being on that tarmac, it's a smaller airport, but just the layout of it reminds me of the movie The Langoliers.
I love that movie.
The Stephen King movie. Yeah, it was just crazy.
It was a made-for-TV movie, so
right. Yeah.
the Pac-Man people eating time.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a little bit, a little bit bogus, but the premise was so great. I enjoyed it so much. The premise was so great. Can we land? Is there any place to land to?
Yeah.
Because of the little Pac-Man people eating up time, and so there's nothing beneath us. There's no earth beneath us.
Exactly. And it's, I think, all or mostly little regional jets that fly in and out of there. And I'm still grateful there's a direct flight. But the staff, too, is with American, it's a much smaller staff. So the person actually checking me in at the desk, I had to check some luggage. Checking me in, actually was at the gate later. I was like, wait a minute, and that's quite often the case. It's a great crew there. They really do a good job. But that airport always kind of creeps me out, and it's especially when I'm there on a day where the sky kind of looks the same as it did in the movie. It's just this big, and it just feels like nothingness because it's a small airport, but it's just the way that the layout is of the tarmac. And I've always said that. I've said that from day one years ago that it reminded me of that. But, yeah, it was a strange feeling being on the airplane coming back. Obviously, anytime that you and I have talked about it, anytime that we're traveling, the internet is imperative because you want to stay informed,
Right.
but you want to get caught up and Sunday afternoon, coming home, it was imperative that I got everything organized because I had bookmarked so many things.
I know.
Saturday was just one of those where it was just like bookmarking so many important critical items along the way, and then just trying to stay organized on the plane, and then trying to, I don't know, see if I could pick up the tone of individuals. It was, it wasn't. It's hard to do. I remember on 9/11 being near the DFW airport, and there were no planes in the sky, and it was just after. In fact, as I was driving home, the first tower fell. And so it was just after the planes hit. And so everything had been grounded nationwide. And I was on the highway and looking around and got into traffic. So it was stop and go traffic. And as I was close to these other cars looking around, saying to myself, I wonder what they're listening to right now. Are they listening to, back then it would have been CDs, not streaming. Are they listening to music radio or sports radio? Are they listening to a station other than our flagship WBAP, which was covering, obviously, the story, breaking news on 9/11? And are they aware? How many people even know what has just happened? And so on the plane on Sunday morning, I was just kind of looking around, and it seemed rather typical. I mean, you had parents with a couple of kids, and you had just your normal traveling public, really, on this plane. I didn't hear anybody talking about it. I did take my headphones off for a little while to see if anybody was going to break out in conversation. They didn't. Often a Sunday flight is a little sleepier because people are coming back on a weekend, or maybe they're heading out for a business week or something like that. But it tends to be a little sleepier than other flights. And so I was doing a lot of just so much reading, so much organizing, and I remember looking up at one point and looking around and kind of just having to clear my eyes a little bit. And still being, in fact, as we speak, still being in this kind of, I don't know, numbness, this kind of, the state of disbelief of what went down. And look, you try not to dwell, but a quarter inch in a different direction, and we'd have a much different conversation right now. I'm so grateful that didn't happen, but so much sorrow for the person who died on that day and for those who were injured. And it's just, again, I've been talking about this to my wife and other family members. You can feel this, it's not tension. There's something else going on with people. I try and be deliberate when I'm at a store or something at a drive-through. I try and smile a little more. I mean, I think I always do smile anyway. I try and make people smile. Making people laugh, in fact, has been my number one goal since I was a kid. I like to see people smile. You want to see that. And just in recent years, it just seems to, for whatever reason, probably a combination of a number of different reasons, those smiles have kind of faded. And tonight, I stop and get some things at a store nearby on my way in because, quite frankly, I just didn't eat while I was on the road. I mean, there was so much going on, and it was kind of a busy schedule. And I woke up very hungry, so I stopped at this store and I got some things. And the nice young lady that at the counter that was checking me out. By that, I mean ringing up my groceries. And she said, thank you, have a nice night. And, she didn't look happy. She wasn't smiling. And I said, thank you, you too. And I smiled back at her. And she almost seemed to be taken aback by my smile. And that shouldn't be the case. I don't, there's a ton going on. There's so much to unpack still from COVID and all the lies told during COVID. There's so much that you and I have talked about. One of the things that has happened in recent years, you see this every once in a while. Hey, well, we're not political. We're not. Nope, everything's political. Today, everything is political. And I do believe that people want escapism. I do believe that they want to live in the world that I believe for the most part we actually do live in. Not that the radicals don't exist. We talk about them all the time. But for the most part, all of us rank and file, we do get along. And we do, for the most part, treat each other with respect. I had an incident with a hothead on a beach over vacation. I haven't talked about it. And I shut it down. There was no blows were exchanged, but I shut it down. And it was disturbing because you just like to think, how in the world does it go from fireworks and the ocean and the beach and the sand to somebody being irate about nothing? And it just happens. And quite frankly, I think with the other party, there was some alcohol involved. I quit drinking. I don't drink. And I was able to recognize that. And I just, did my best to de-escalate the situation. But I did shut it down fairly quickly when I realized it was about to boil over or we had to shut this situation down. And there's all my family with me, including my grandkids. And I can't tell you. None of us can tell you what's going on in each other's minds. But I can tell you right now that so much, I believe, of the fear built in people's minds is built on a series of lies told by people with great influence that happened during COVID to the point that you were scaring kids so much. And we saw, I can't prove causation, but we can definitely look at correlation, but a rise in the suicide rates of adolescent women. And it, I believe, goes back to, and this is something we witnessed on Saturday, as a society, as creatures, as humans, I do believe that we require, as adolescents, as kids, we require discipline, but we require someone of authority to tell us things are going to be okay. But to teach us structure, to teach us discipline, to show us things, but also to demonstrate strength. One of the things you and I talk about with our fathers is that they demonstrated strengths in their own way. My dad didn't have to bench 400 pounds. My dad went to war twice, starting at the age of 18. But more directly for me as a child, it was how he acted in the home, how he behaved, and the example that he set based on his behavior. The example that was set by former President Trump on Saturday is something that goes along with something we have talked about before, and the fact that everything thrown at him, all the rhetoric, all the legal cases, Russian hoax, and everything, and he didn't flinch. And you and I have said, we'd be furious. My gosh, keeping that together, are you kidding me? I can't imagine. And then he gets shot on stage at a rally. And this is something that Selena Zito from the Free Press mentioned in her article about being 4 feet away from President Trump on Saturday and her experience in that. But she said he was in a good mood. He always is on rally days. It's a positive cheerleading, hey, let's do this kind of day. And that's why they call it a rally. And in an impossible moment that most of us can't even imagine, much less have ever lived through, he stands up to rally people even further. That kind of example is that example that I talk about, and what I think that we want to see. It's not that we're weak. It's that kind of example empowers us to do what's right, empowers us to do the things that need to be done to keep liberty in place, to keep the radicals at bay. And I've said for a long time, this November, we're at a crossroads. And if we don't get it right this election season, I have my doubts as to whether or not we ever will. And we are at a crossroads. And it is critical to have the truth in front of us, and also to have the example and to have that empowerment by people who don't flinch.
What happened this weekend, unfortunate, but it is an opportunity for the Republican Party to get it really right, and we'll get to that next. 866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, where do we go from here? I heard that the Democrats were pulling most of their ads. You heard that story, right?
Yeah.
Now, how long will that continue? Let's take a look. We have time. Okay, let's take a look at both parties. We'll first start with the Democrats. Where did the Democrats go? The Democrats were not debating the issues against Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right.
They weren't debating the issues. They weren't saying, they may be out there and, they're not sitting there saying on inflation, for example, here's our economic plan that will cure inflation that anybody is buying.
Right.
They're not talking about the border. The things that a poll came out again. It's funny. Inflation, economy. Well, that's the same thing. But that's the top two, inflation and the economy. And you had, like climate change was at the bottom of the list. It's not even there anymore. And so the things that the Democrats are talking about really aren't the concerns of the American public. And Trump, like he did, especially in 2016, 2020, because of COVID and everything else, the focus wasn't there as much on the issues. We have always stated Republicans, and therefore Trump, wins if they stick to the top issues that they believe in, and the American public is in favor of almost landslide numbers. But the Democrats, where do they go? Where can if the Democrats can't demonize Trump, where do they go?
That's, something you and I talked about during a break. By the way, it is absolutely true. It is not rhetoric at all. Our show just really doesn't stop. We'll be talking issues all the way out to the car.
I know.
When we leave here in the morning. And during the breaks, it continues. Because I said, right, if you're you asked that question, where do they go if they're on the issues? Where do you go after Trump on the issues? Well, what do you say? He brought corporate taxes down to 21%. I mean, you're going to have to basically, if you're going to do something, you really have to stay on his presidential record, right? If you were going to honestly debate, because we have virtually two incumbents. So if you're going to debate on the issues, the records say everything. You look at the record inflation under Biden. You look at the open border, which was a direct result of his policies and also his campaign promise in 2020. Go back. I don't believe what we say. Go back and fact check us. He was inviting people to come across the border. His policies of opening the border have been very, very clear. On the left, now, I don't know how many of those radicals who are pro-Hamas will vote for Biden, because we know that there's kind of a rift there because they think Biden's been too pro-Israel or whatever it is, but they're anti-Israel. They're highly anti-Semitic, and they're proudly promoting that. They're pro-Hamas, and those aren't people on the right. So where on the issues, if you're just to go back and say, okay, we're going to stick to the two candidates, where do you go with Trump? Where do you go? When they say he was impeached, you have to ask and include, in fact, I believe, impeached for what, and get all the way back to the very basis of both impeachments.
But they're not even trying that.
No, they can't. That's my whole point. They don't have anything.
And that's the problem. When you think about it, what came up after the debate? All of a sudden, Project 2025, and lying about what's in Project 2025, and attaching it to Trump. Did we play the other cut last week where somebody said, well, if you're going to attach that, then everything radical that any radical Democrat has come up with has to be embraced by Biden, including defund the police,
right,
and you name it,
yeah,
because you're attaching something to Trump that Trump didn't create.
Right.
And then you're lying about what's actually in it.
Get our Red Eye Radio app in your app store. Then listen at your convenience. Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Where do the Democrats go in this? Because their entire campaign was based on the fact that Trump is a danger to democracy. I mean, that's it. I mean, there isn't any. They're not sitting there saying, there were a couple of things when he talked about tariffs, but then that was strictly gone because most people are like, what's a tariff?
Exactly.
But it was the danger to democracy that they have been pounding on over. And the problem with tariffs is the left of the Democratic Party is all for tariffs, including Bernie Sanders, who totally agrees with President Trump on tariffs. So, but it's not. They were not running an issue campaign against Donald Trump. Donald Trump and the Republicans are running an issue-based campaign. And it's not a complicated campaign. Inflation, the border. Biden's not a leader worldwide. My God, you were getting that. I mean, after... Oh, my gosh, late last week, it was just like, some of the... he is, by far. He was Winston Churchill. He was, it was just the point of... It's like, stop it!
Yeah.
Because nobody, not even Democrats, bought it.
No.
Democrats aren't stupid. Some are.
Well,
but
not all
I'm
Democrats
sorry,
are completely stupid.
That was not violent rhetoric. But
again, we believe in the truth.
No, they know. they know. Come on, they know Biden. They know his weaknesses. They know he's stumbling and bumbling. And oh man, did you see before it all happened? Did you see Jon Stewart on the one podcast? Oh God,
yeah.
Going after the liberals, this guy couldn't get a job at basically at a 7-Eleven.
Right.
If that's a job interview.
Yeah.
I'm like, whoa. But again, that was that was everything you've got to put in the context of pre attempted assassination and post. Because it's as we told you last week, hey folks, things could change quickly. Didn't expect this.
Well, here's the thing. You probably saw this, and you'll see more of it. The word they tried to assassinate him. People generally in their mind, this is why something like this politically is everlasting, is that people in their mind will say they, or they hear they tried to assassinate Trump. They tried to, and it comes down to one individual. Now, we don't know, he may be associated with a number of people. We don't know that yet, but that's not, even if he were found to be, let's just say he acted on his own and had no associations with any other people in this regard, people would still in their mind think and hear that they did this, they did that. Well, the fact of the matter is they did go after Trump legally. They did conjure up the Russian hoax. They do lie constantly about Trump. So, yeah, people are going to, in their mind, say they. And the point is that you then have condemned an entire group as having not a direct responsibility necessarily, but certainly some ownership in what happened. That's just the thought of people's minds. Politically, that's impossible to shake.
And so where do you go? I'm reading here from Axios. Democratic lawmakers say their immediate focus is on not on replacing Biden, but on their personal security and that of their staffs, not on their party's political woes, helping to allow a crucial cool-down period for the embattled president. Quote, "We're all just focused on expressing condolences and keeping our team safe," said one House Democrat who has been fiercely critical of Biden. A senior House Democrat suggests that the post-shooting atmosphere in the party is too chaotic for internal battles over the leadership. That second point might be right. The first point where he said we're all focused on expressing condolences and keeping our team safe. No, politics is always a part of it. That's what you do. You're a political party. So immediately, you saw it in the media. Yeah. You saw it in the one CNN correspondent who was upset. And then what's her name on ABC, Martha Raddatz, said it the next day that they were bothered by, and some people bothered by, the inflammatory rhetoric of Trump after he was shot, putting his fist in the air and saying, fight, fight, fight. That meant politics was in their minds immediately afterwards, because that's one of the most bizarre statements ever made.
Yep.
And so politics, they're extremely concerned about what's chaotic is they don't know where to go now. They had to pull their ads. They pulled the ads that said, he's a felon and everything else. They're pulling all those ads. Well, they've got to start them back up again. What kind of ads are they going to run? Where do the Democrats go? The Democrats know they have a huge problem because they don't want massive infighting right now inside the Democratic Party to replace Biden, but that might have to happen because if they can't go after Trump, if they can't sit there and say Trump is a threat to democracy anymore, then what's their goal? That's their only hope, is to throw out, as we have said, the lies that they have perpetuated, that Trump is a Nazi,
right.
Trump is going to get rid of democracy, Project 2025 will ensure that everybody is a slave in a concentration camp. I don't know, was that one out there yet? If it hasn't, it will be.
It will be, I'm sure.
So it may lower this week, but I see the rhetoric and I see challenges to Biden still. You and I had this conversation, and you were saying that to me. You said, I don't see that going away. They're all saying it's going away. It may go away for a day or two, but if you can't attack Trump they don't attack him on the issues. If you can't attack him on the issues, then, and again, it wasn't succeeding what they were doing.
No,
but
they don't have any other game.
But there's no other game. There's no other way to go.
They don't know of any other way, and that's the difference. Is that what are they going to do? Okay, let's say they're pulling back their advertising. And okay, we're gonna change the rhetoric in the advertising. And where are they going to go? You can't change the nature of the beast. You're not. That's not going to happen.
It's what they've done for 20 years. Over 20 years.
Imagine they come out and, well, he's wrong about lower corporate tax rates. They're not going to do that. He's wrong about wanting to
secure the border.
They're not going to do that.
Open borders is good.
He's wrong on being tough on crime. You can't do that. I mean, we know how they feel on all of those issues. He wants to increase your buying power. He's wrong. You shouldn't have greater buying power.
And after a couple of days here, and they do have a reprieve because of the Republican convention, but the Republican convention, we'll get to this here in a little bit, is going to be completely different ball game, it seems, than it was going to be last week. And we had said last week to Trump, we said, stop personally going after Biden. Don't go after Biden's. You can say, look, cognitively speaking, he's got some huge problems here.
Yeah.
And we sympathize with him, but we're very critical of the family and the Democratic Party for propping him up, but don't attack his condition, as he did once last week at a rally. We said, don't do that.
You can say, and this is true, and I would use it at every turn, his own party questions his ability to serve.
Yes, exactly. That's where you go with that. But I don't think that's going to happen now. I think that's done. I think you have a completely different focus for Trump now. You've seen it in the statements that he put out, the statement Melania put out, the fact that he now invited Nikki Haley, saying we all have to come together. She's going to give a speech at the convention. You have a more unified Republican Party. All a Republican Party has to do now is say, look, horrible what happened, but we want to unite America. We want to unite America with these things that we believe. Here's what we believe. And you don't have to go further than inflation, the border, and being an American leader worldwide.
Well, here we are. This is just a couple hours ago. New York Post. Michael Goodwin over at the New York Post. Trump changing GOP convention speech to stress importance of unity after Pennsylvania rally shooting. Look, we've said here, this applies and has applied in past election cycles, even though, again, this is a unique election cycle, and now after Saturday, one of the most unique election cycle that we've ever seen, certainly in modern times. But this applies to every convention. You're trying to open it wide to basically showcase for the independent and give the independent voter confidence. Middle America, hey, this is what we're about. This is why you should vote for us. And that, I don't know what that speech is going to be about. I mean, if you talk about unity and everything else, but it will be vastly different than many of the rally speeches from 2016 or 2020, and maybe even some of the early rally speeches of 2024. And let's hope it's a lot like the Mount Rushmore speech that he gave. If he gives a speech on Thursday night that is as good as the Mount Rushmore speech, I can't imagine the effect of that, because the media will go in and, well, we're going to fact check him. Nobody's listening to you anymore after your ridiculous behavior on Saturday. people are going to look at that for themselves. I do find this, and it's anecdotal. You probably notice this too, Gary. People who, again, aren't political wonks, more and more going, I watched someone, in fact, close to me said, I watched the debate again online. I went back and watched the entire debate online again. And wow. And just and I thought to myself, the fact that they went back and watched it again, people will find a way, if they value the truth, if they're interested enough in what's going on, and I can't imagine anyone who's not at least mildly interested in this election cycle now, and they will find it for themselves and they'll see it. Thursday night has to be on point. It has to be absolutely the right tone. And if it's anything like Mount Rushmore speech, it will all but seal it and certainly set the tone for the Republican Party for November. And let's hope it is just that.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So Democrats I'm telling you right now, Democrats have no idea where to go. Because if they can't attack Trump for being a racist, which they can't, I mean, Biden continues to try to do it. He still brings up Charlottesville. He still brings up the soldier thing,
right.
The suckers and losers, doesn't get anywhere because even the mainstream media was starting to fact check him on that, going, well, there's no evidence that ever happened.
Even John Bolton, who was quick to write a negative book about Trump, came back and said, no, that never happened.
Yeah, and so it's the lies about Trump that they keep bringing up. And then when you think about it, because I was looking over the weekend, you see some of the harshest rhetoric. What's his name? Wilson, the Never Trumper from the Lincoln Project, who said, Trump needs to be shot in the head.
Yeah.
And because when they came out and said, well, this guy, they said he's a Republican. I'm like, well, some of the Never Trumpers that are all Republicans, in name only, have some of the most outlandish criticism. They're some of the most radical ones. Kinzinger yesterday wrote a column saying he is a threat to democracy. He is a threat to democracy. And we all know how flipped out, what her name is from Wyoming. Cheney, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Lynn, she's just flipped out, and we know the criticism against her. Look at the Democrats that have changed. The Barry Weisses, the Michael Schellenbergers, the Matt Taibbi's.
The ones who are being intellectually honest.
The Dershowiches, the Jonathan Turleys.
Yep.
They're hitting specifics all the time.
Yep, with the facts.
Yep.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Hi, thank you for being here this morning. All right, where do the Republicans go now? The Democrats, I can't tell you where, seriously, I honestly don't know where they go, except back to where they were. And I think that's where they'll go because there's no other place for them to go. They can't argue the issues with the Republicans.
Well, they have conjure fear. They can only conjure fear by lying, and there's you don't change that. I don't know that they have the ability to change that.
And so I think when all this stuff, we need to just quiet down for the next couple of days, and we're not going to talk about Biden, whether he should stay or whether he should go. Honestly, I think more focus will be on the Republican convention starting today than than Joe Biden and
Yeah.
the not Lawrence O'Donnell, Lawrence O'Donnell, Lester Holt.
Oh, yeah.
The Lester Holt interview. I don't think
I think so, too.
I think that's gone. I don't think anybody's paying attention to it. I think it's going to come back up again if you have, because where it seems like it's going for the Republicans is Trump has rewritten his speech. It's going to be about unity. They brought in Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's now in there. Now, she last week said, all my delegates go for Trump. And when they asked her, they said, well, you haven't been invited yet. And she goes, well, that's her prerogative, but I'm still supporting Trump. And I went, you need to invite her. Even if she doesn't speak, she needs to have a presence there. And this is before everything happened on Saturday.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
And one of the criticisms that we've had when we look at where do the Republicans go, one of the criticisms we've had of Trump, and we used to get pushback on this all the time, is you don't need to fight every battle. Win the big war.
Yeah.
If Lady Gaga says something bad about you, I don't even know if she has. She probably did. Not her father, but Lady Gaga. Ignore it.
Yeah.
It's no big deal. You don't need to get into a fight with Hollywood. And we would get pushback from some of his loyal supporters saying he needs to be involved and attack everyone.
If they needs to call them all out and not let them get away with this and that. They're not relevant.
If they do it, we should do the same back to them.
No.
And we've always said, no, don't do that. What they're doing is what the American public doesn't like. Stick to the issues. Find the issues that you believe in, that 70% of America believes in, and promote those. Attack the big boys and big girls. I had to say big boy. The big
Don't
boys.
forget, the big boy interview is tonight too.
I mean, you have to go over it, but you can embarrass them because they're not acting like adults and they're making stuff up, and you can explain things as we did.
Yeah,
we never got one. And we've been stating this since Biden said it. How long ago with the Georgia election law? Was it 4 years now?
Right, yeah.
Where he said it's Jim Crow on steroids, and we said, what part?
Right.
What part? He's lying about it. Democrats lied about it. Every Democrat right now knows that when the president said that the Georgia election law is Jim Crow on steroids, every Democrat listening right now knows that was a lie.
Yep.
And they did that only for one reason, to make it so people of different skin colors hated each other based on a lie. Now, that's not over-the-top rhetoric because he said it.
Yeah.
And when we have said that's what hate group leaders do, that's what leaders of the KKK and the white Aryan nations would do, that's not over-the-top rhetoric. They would lie about something in order to get people of different skin color to hate each other.
Yep. It's all about division, and you got to build that, and you got to build that ultimate fear, because people have an instinct and they act on that fear. And when it involves that anger, that's where it gets, again, that's where it motivates individuals. And this is something we break down. The reason we break it down is not to engage in rhetoric. We have to demonstrate that. When over the weekend you hear, well, some people say that what he said in the moments after the shooting was blah, blah, blah. Well, some people, no. If you want to say that, well, Hakeem Jeffries said this and quote him and say was his response, but when you say words like some people believe, why don't you just say I believe? Why don't you just admit that it's you as an activist, not a journalist, that believes this? All of these things right now, I had someone a few years ago, someone close to me, who said something that life starts to change as you get older, and all of a sudden, because your siblings are getting older, your parents are getting older, if you're blessed enough to still have them. And as very serious things in life start to happen, those things change how you see the world. They change how you view things. They also change your tolerance and maybe reduce your tolerance for malarkey. We'll borrow that word from 2020. Because when you look at what happened Saturday got almost as serious as it could with the former president. A quarter of an inch in a different direction, and it would have become the most serious of conversations and situations as a nation. And all of our tolerance for the lies has to stop. You and I have heard it before. We've had callers that have called and said, and it was on other things during the Obama years. Well, no, we know that he was lying about gay marriage, but we were okay with the lie because it got us to this end. If you're okay with the lies, you're okay with the result of any lies, including the lies that build the fear in individuals and divide individuals into groups. That's what the left has been doing for far too long. The truth is the only thing that matters.
I think that the Republicans, again, I think it's one of the greatest moments caused by something that was tragic because an American died. Two are in, I believe, stable condition is the last that I've seen, which is actually good news. And there was an attempted assassination on the president of the United States. Wish it didn't happen, but it did. All right, what do you do with it now? You see that we see what's going on. The Republican Party is saying, okay, we're uniting. President can give a great speech. You saw the RNC saying temper down the rhetoric. Again, it's what the rhetoric is. If you get up there and the president gets up there and the speakers get up there and say, look, we want to unite this country with the things that we believe. And the things that we believe, the vast majority of the polls show that the vast majority of Americans believe in this, but believe in this, believe in that, and the vast majority of Americans treat each other right. And we get along. We get along in our daily lives with everybody. But there are some things that we reject. We embrace unity. We don't embrace identity politics. Now, you don't even have to bring up the Democrats. You just say, we reject identity politics. You don't even need to be accused of attacking. We reject identity politics. We judge people as individuals and not as a group. That has been going on for too long in this country, and we reject it. That's just one of the points that you can bring up. And you can talk about everything else about wanting a better economy, that inflation needs to go, that we need to secure our border, and that other countries, what we need to do with other countries is to encourage them to have the form of government that we have, which naturally produces a better economy. I mean, you have the opportunity right now, the Republican Party, to really expand their base from a Democratic Party that doesn't know what to do right now. They have no idea what to do because they can't talk about the issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you need to hit it, and you need to hit it hard, but in a unifying way. Because you talk about, what are we unified about? We're unified about an idea. What is that idea? The idea is a Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. We do not wish, because I saw that the other day, and that 2020 Project 2025 would eliminate the Constitution.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a complete lie.
Right.
But that's where the Democrats are.
Yeah.
They decided, let's just throw out Project 2025, say it's Trump's, attach anything we want to it that's not even in the bill, and nobody is going to read 900 pages to find it out. We'll just pound it, and that's how we win in November.
Yeah.
Well, you need to bring up and say, we embrace the Constitution of the United States. We embrace freedom of speech. We embrace freedom of religion. We embrace freedom of the press. We don't wish to censor. We don't want to censor as a government.
Yeah.
We want vigorous debate out there. We believe in the Second Amendment. Go through the amendments. These are the things that unify us. It's a great opportunity. It is right now, with everything that's gone on, it is the best opportunity for the Republicans right now in this week to market the brand of what they believe in. And what unifies us is not that we're the same eye color, hair color, skin color. It's that we all agree on the same ideas that came out of the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution, which is equality, individual rights, separation of powers, to be a free country and to have a country that is ruled by laws and not by people.
Yep. And
or bureaucrats, I should say, when I say bureaucrats instead of people.
Right.
That's what you do. And you don't even have to mention the Democrats. Everybody knows who you're talking about. But when the criticism comes in, you're attacking the Democrats. We're attacking ideas. And we're promoting the ideas that we believe in. You win. You win. You win. You win.
And and imagine a real debate on the issues. My gosh, when's the last time that happened? When's the last time that happened?
Was Trump practicing for his golf match yesterday with Biden? Is that
right?
I thought it was stock footage. It's like, no, he's out golfing this morning.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know, right?
Oh my God.
If it were me, I mean,
I'd still be contemplating my mortality.
Bill,
not going, can I get this 7-iron 135 yards? Or is a win too much out of the West?
If it were me and I had his money, it would be the thickest walled safe room ever. And I'd stay there at least for the weekend. He's out golfing.
I'd be looking for chicks.
You can't say chicks. Chicks hate that.
No, I'd be contemplating my mortality.
Well, I can't imagine. I'd be
pretty obsessed with.
I'd be freaked out.
A quarter of an inch the other way.
I'd be freaked out.
That would stick in.
I'd be freaked out.
He's out there. All right, this 9-iron shot, okay.
I'd be freaked out.
I'm hitting a 9-iron about 129
because
right now. But
by then, by midday Sunday, all my buddies would be tired of taking my calls and me saying, "Do you know what happened?" I would be in total freak-out mode.
Telling everybody, calling everybody, and I love you, 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 I love you.
Well, and that's my earlier point. Things got so much more serious on Saturday.
They did.
I mean, the entire event. And this is something that is forever ingrained in the history books. It's a part of American political history and quite unfortunately turned deadly. And we look at a situation like this, and there's no way, it's just something that we do as a part of our instinct, I believe. You reassess values in a moment like this. You do. I don't know how that's going to affect the election, not even the point. But there's no way it doesn't have an effect on people who actually care. If you have a conscience, then it affects you in a very powerful way.
Oh, it was, like I said, when I turned it, I turned about a minute after, but they were already showing, they were down. Here's what happened, they had, split screen.
Yeah.
And they're taking him off, and then all of a sudden it goes back to the full screen, and he raises his hand, and the crowd start doing it, and you're numb, and then you're like, oh my God, what a moment. And then you're thinking, I don't care about the moment. Get off stage. Make sure you're okay. I don't know if you were shot somewhere else.
I could not get that worry out of my mind.
The range of emotions was back and forth. And then you think about, I thought about the people in the crowd all of a sudden cheering. They're back to cheering after the assassination attempt. I'll never see anything like that the rest of my life. That will never, and I've never seen anything like that in my life.
If I live another 200 years, I won't see something like that. My gosh.
Hopefully you don't.
I really hope I don't witness anything even close to that. But in terms of
his
empowerment,
I hope you don't live another 200 years. That was my point.
Well, there's that. I'd rather not, quite frankly.
Be moving a little slow.
My retirement fund doesn't go that far. It's just a few years short, just a few. Based on inflation. It's about 200 years short.
I wanted immortality and then inflation hit.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
not possible.
I'm tired.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on compliance, safety, accountability. Compliance, Safety, Accountability, or CSA, is the FMCSA Safety, Compliance, and Enforcement Program. Its goal is to hold motor carriers and drivers accountable for highway safety and to reduce crashes, injuries, and fatalities on our roads. CSA does this by assessing the safety performance of motor carriers and drivers based on data collected during roadside inspections, crash reports, and FMCSA investigations. Based on the data that is compiled, motor carriers are assigned a score. The carrier is then grouped with other carriers who have had a similar number of safety events. Carrier scores within the group are then ranked to determine intervention priority. Low scores are better, so carriers with the highest scores are those that are most likely to be targeted for intervention by the FMCSA. Interventions range in severity and may include warning letters, roadside, off-site, or on-site inspections, civil penalties, or operation out-of-service orders. This tip was brought to you by J.J. Keller & Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just this from one of the many social media posts out there, millions over the weekend. Yes, Democratic politicians can't call him Hitler anymore after they all rightly posted, "Our prayers are with Trump," after the assassination attempt yesterday, because you wouldn't offer prayers for Hitler.
No, that was so prevalent over the weekend, and it started right away. I mean, hold on. You're calling the guy Hitler, and then you're praying for a full and speedy recovery for Hitler? Really?
Right. So what you're admitting is he's not Hitler.
Yeah,
Well, I thought it was
you're
fascinating.
either lying about your prayers or you're lying about him being Hitler.
I thought it was fascinating that a couple of days before this all happened, you had Democrats start going, okay, and it started coming out in the media, all right, he's not really a threat to democracy.
Right.
We're just saying that.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just to give you an example of some of the political insanity coming from the left. This was the Huffington Post listen 2 weeks ago, and you and I talked about this. Mm-hmm. It's so ridiculous. Supreme Court gives Joe Biden the legal okay to assassinate Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That's a Huffington Post.
Yep.
Something is wrong.
I remember that.
When dissenting justices warn that a majority may have just legalized murder by one individual. Now, is any of that true?
No.
That the Supreme Court
No.
gave Joe Biden, or vice versa,
Right.
Donald Trump, the legal rights to kill Joe Biden?
No.
Is any of that true?
No.
No. It's completely false. That's the kind of over-the-top, insane rhetoric. By the way, I think that Sotomayor put in the dissent, and Roberts went after her for that.
Mm-hmm.
It couldn't be further. Don't tell lies.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what we're dealing with. But if you have, this is the conundrum that they are in. The Democrats are in right now. Right, you're going to have, and unless there's an extenuating circumstance, of probably a very successful Republican convention that will pick Trump up a couple of points.
Yeah.
If Trump picks up a couple of points and he's up by 6 or 7 by the end of the week, what do the Democrats do at that point to gain the attention of the American public?
Mm-hmm.
So when we hear this whole thing that, no, now it's on the back burner, they're not going to replace Biden, well, what else do they have? If they have that, they give their base some hope. Some of the consensus, and I don't know if it's right or not, because this is, I guess if you look at human nature, it's probably maybe a bet that I would take. It's not a certainty, but Frank Luntz and others came out and said the reason that this gives Trump such a huge edge, and I'm sure everybody has seen the social media post, oh, Trump wins now, there's not any possible way that he could lose. The explanation behind that is that you have an enthusiasm gap now, majorly. Republicans and independents that like Trump are going to go out and vote for him. And there isn't that excitement with the Democrats that every Republican's going to go out and vote. Well, that may not be every Republican, but you understand the point that they're trying to make, that Republicans are now going to vote. That you have, and I've seen this written a couple of times, that you now have Trump with a unique position in American history. He's a former president, but now he is viewed as both a victim and a hero.
Yeah.
A victim and a hero who has very definitive opinions on what should be done in America, that on the top 3 or 4 things that he believes, so does the majority of Americans.
Yep.
And the vast majority of Americans.
Yep.
So that's the situation right now. I don't believe I'm going over the top on that at all in any way or being a partisan. It's just the reality of what's going on right now. What do the Democrats have? If the Republicans are up, if Trump, you see him up by 5 or even 6 points, which means he's only picking up, what, a point and a half?
Yeah.
And that's
Right.
been done many times at a convention without all these unique variables that have come together at this particular point. Then what are the Democrats going to market in order to get rid of Biden? Are you going to have? Here's the problem. I can't see the Trump campaign not picking up a point or two after everything that has happened. If they do it right and have it and market it correctly, we unite around the issues, the Constitution, everything else. We reject identity politics. We treat everybody equally, but we don't judge them by groups. We judge them by individuals. You go after, and that's going after critical race theory, by the way, in a more subtle way. Same thing with the radical transgender movement.
Yep.
Sympathize with anybody who has those thoughts. We recognize the fact that the suicide rate is higher. We want anyone that is in any particular group that has a higher suicide rate to get what they need, but that doesn't mean that a boy is a girl because a boy thinks he is.
And it certainly doesn't mean that you give adolescents the rights or the ability to approve genital mutilation surgery.
You can't lose that, and so they have 6 points.
Yeah.
Let's say they're up by 6, and that's a possibility. What do the Democrats do at that point? What do the donors do? Because the Democrats are saying, no, it's going to be Biden, it's going to be Biden. So the donors that were pulling out 2 days ago, you saw the one, 90 million from the one pack. Sorry, that's not going to go in. That now that his chance of losing is even greater than it was, are going to put hundreds of millions of dollars into a campaign which is now predicted to lose even bigger than it was a week earlier.
Yeah.
I think the Democrats will come back to wanting to get rid of Biden again. I think that returns. Maybe it could return as early as this week, but probably after the Republican convention, after the polls start coming in next weekend and into the beginning of the week after. I think at that point, it's got to go one way or another. But if he stays and his odds of losing are even greater, the donors are not going to stay.
No.
What do you do at that point?
This is the problem that they had before this weekend, that the reality doesn't change. If the article at Axios, okay, this takes basically the focus of the Democrats will change from calling, for Biden to step down. This is going to change it. And some agree with that. It may change what they're saying at the moment, but it doesn't change what they believe. Think about why they're calling for Biden to step down. Nothing about this weekend changes what's going on with Biden. Nothing will improve about Biden. In fact, if you look at it, then the conversations behind closed doors probably have become even more serious as to, well, wait a minute, after this weekend, and quite possibly after their convention, the Trump campaign is going to pick up momentum, and we're losing momentum, and we all know why, and we've already had the conversation as to why. And the reason as to why does not change. In fact, with time, only gets worse. You're not going to have it come back. This Wednesday, I could be wrong, but if I had to put a quarter down on this bet, I would do it. George Clooney's not going to write another piece in the New York Times saying, I was wrong. Joe Biden's perfectly capable. That's not going to change. Nothing about this weekend changes the nature of Joe Biden. Yes, it might change what they're doing outwardly as a party and officially as a party with the number of, I don't know how many Democrats it got up to, 14, 15, 20, whatever it is. And some say even more. Some say reports were saying it could be even more Democrats, which would be logical, that more Democrats are concerned about his cognitive issues. But nothing changes about what has been said and what has been acknowledged by his party. Nothing changes the polls that show the majority of Democrats don't want him to be the nominee. The interview tonight won't change that. In fact, may make it worse. And their convention next month won't change that and might make it worse. There's not going to be an improvement on their side.
Well, and I just thought about this, too, with Lester Holt. Are the questions now just going to simply be, are you going to pull out? Or, Mr. President, do you need to tone down your rhetoric, too?
It could be. I think it's got to be both. Because
how does Biden respond?
I think that's a very important question, because think about when the interview was scheduled. The interview with NBC was scheduled, and we're told by NBC New York.com last week, and I saved that article. They said that it's going to air in its entirety. We don't know what that means. Entirety, you mean entirety after being edited? Tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern. It's also, the transcript is going to be the full transcript, it says. Well, the full transcript of what aired, or everything that actually happened during that, before editing. Again, just asking questions. But think about when it was edited, or when it was scheduled. It was scheduled during the time when Democrats were asking, and many liberals were asking him to step down officially. So that question, the question about his age and whether or not he should step down, is still going to be there, because Lester Holt is kind of bound by it. I think a lot more will be added in based on the events of the weekend. There's no way it won't be, but the rhetoric and everything else. The question is, will the interview have a softer tone, or are they still on a mission because they don't believe at NBC, the activists that they are, don't believe he should be the guy. They're not alone. George Stephanopoulos over at ABC said it. Now his parent company hated the fact that he said it out loud. But you know they're all thinking it. And so nothing changes about his mental ability or his competency. And there's only momentum to be gained for the Trump campaign.
And nothing changes with the donors.
Right.
You can have members of Democrats in the Congress go, well, we need to back off a little bit on this. Well, the donors don't care. It's still. So you're saying, okay, the donors, we still want you to come through, even though you decided not to come through last week. And the odds are now greater because he's even behind more in the polls. So now we want your hundreds of millions of dollars. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, right. Right. It just isn't.
And that's why I think, because what do? How hard they'll want to come back and attack Trump, but how can they?
Right. Right.
How can they now succeed in telling those over-the-top lies that has been the basis of their campaign? You saw it yesterday still. Oh, yeah, Trump was shot, but what about Project 2025? It's like nobody cares.
Nobody cares.
You're lying
That's
about
going nowhere. Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a reason why they have to be so vague about it. And they just, I don't know if they're going to get to playing serious music behind them, underneath while they're talking about it. Dun, dun, dun. Project 2025. But it's not going anywhere because they're not getting into the actual facts about Project 2025. And it's not a Trump Project 2025. So they lose on all accounts. We've been saying it for a while. People do their own fact-checking. And when you say something and you're vague about it, the problem with that is you may think you're going to influence minds because you're being vague, but actually, I think there's a greater risk of getting people curious about the facts because you're not providing them, and they're going to find the facts on their own.
I love this, though. Just very quickly, from Yahoo News, satire fuels misinformation about Project 2025.
Yeah.
And here's one. This is one of the parodies. Project 2025 group says women should be mandated to carry period passports that track their menstrual cycles and must be kept up to date. And women must present these to police officers during random ID checks to monitor pregnancies. Oh, my God.
All right.
So the parody is the parody is adding to the misinformation that's been created by Democrats.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, man, the Babylon Bee, just brutal.
Yeah.
How CNN reported famous assassinations throughout history. Lincoln nods off at play.
Yeah,
it's our first headline.
Right.
Trump indicted for inciting assassination attempt. Oh,
right.
FBI wonders if perhaps they've been investigating the wrong people this entire time. And the party that called Trump Hitler for 8 years, shocked as someone tries to assassinate him.
Yeah.
And finally, CNN.
Mm-hmm.
Clumsy Trump hits head on bullet.
Yeah.
That's a fake headline, by the way.
Right.
It's
but
a
I mean,
site.
Those parodies.
Yeah, I know.
Are not nearly as ridiculous as the actual headlines over the weekend.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.